The movie kicks off in the freezing, unforgiving waters of the Antarctic Ocean, right in the heart of winter. A gigantic vessel sits trapped in a vast field of ice, completely immobilized by the brutal cold. Inside, the captain is doing everything humanly possible to get his crew and passengers off the ship safely. But with the temperature dropping lower every hour, survival itself is starting to feel like a losing battle. Then, on one storm-filled night, with snow whipping across the deck and the wind howling like a beast, a desperate scream for help echoes through the darkness. The captain and a handful of his men rush out toward the sound, and they find a lone stranger stumbling across the ice, crying out in agony. He begs them, almost shaking, saying, "Please, either take me with you, or just kill me. Just don't leave me out here like this." His desperation hits the captain hard, and without thinking twice, he orders the crew to bring the man aboard. But the moment they pull him onto the ship, something monstrous emerges from the blizzard. Something that was clearly hunting this man down. All we see at first are its horrifying arms, long twisted limbs, and massive tentacles thrashing through the snow as it lunges toward the ship. Within seconds, the creature begins attacking the crew with brutal force. The men try everything, guns, knives, anything they can get their hands on, but nothing seems to even scratch this thing. Bullets bounce off like they're nothing. Finally, one soldier fires a heavy mini-rocket launcher directly at the creature. The blast knocks it away from the deck, but even that isn't enough to kill it. Enraged, the monster slams into the ship from below, shaking the entire vessel so violently that equipment crashes to the floor and the crew starts losing their footing. Realizing they're running out of time, the captain climbs up to higher ground and strikes the surrounding ice with a powerful tool. The impact shatters the frozen surface, creating a massive break that sends the creature plunging into the dark, icy waters below. The crew believes the danger is over, that maybe the beast finally drowned. But they're wrong, and they don't even know it yet. The next morning, the captain visits the mysterious man they rescued the night before. With a calm but serious voice, he asks him, "What in the world was that thing? Why was it chasing you?" The man hesitates, and then slowly begins to reveal his past. As he speaks, we fade into a flashback, taking us back to his childhood, to a time when he was just a 12-year-old boy named Victor. Victor had grown up as the son of a brilliant, widely respected scientist. A man who dreamed that his child would one day follow in his footsteps and become an even greater scientist, maybe even a world-class doctor. And because Victor admired his father deeply, he pushed himself harder than most kids his age ever could. Years of discipline, sleepless nights, and relentless studying paid off, and Victor eventually became a scientist at an impressively young age. But despite all the knowledge he had gained, he still couldn't change the one thing that mattered the most. When his mother fell seriously ill, all of Victor's intelligence, all of his father's research, and all their scientific achievements meant absolutely nothing. She slipped away in front of them, and Victor could do nothing but watch. Overwhelmed with grief and frustration, he lashed out at his father, shouting, "What's the point of all this science if we can't even save the person we love the most?" His father tried to comfort him, explaining gently that there are limits, even to science, and that bringing the dead back to life simply isn't something humans are meant to do. But Victor didn't accept that, not even for a moment. That day marked the beginning of a completely different path in his life. A path filled with obsession. A path that would eventually lead to something terrifying. Victor became determined, almost dangerously determined, to discover a method to resurrect the dead. He believed that if he could find the right formula, the right process, the right spark, he could unlock something even his father couldn't imagine. The film then cuts sharply back to the present. Deep beneath the frozen ocean, the same monster that had been knocked into the icy water earlier suddenly bursts back to the surface. What's even more disturbing is that the freezing temperature seems to have no effect on him. The creature doesn't shiver, doesn't slow down, not even a sneeze. It stands strong, as if the cold is nothing more than a mild inconvenience. Then the story shifts back again, returning to Victor's memories as he continues explaining his past. He spent years consumed by his research, testing theories, studying biology, and experimenting with electrical energy. When Victor finally turned 30, after countless failures and near breakdowns, he made a shocking breakthrough. He discovered a method to resurrect dead tissue using human organs combined with high-voltage electrical pulses. To prove his discovery, he arranged a meeting with a group of wealthy and influential businessmen. He wanted funding, recognition, and a chance to change the world. During the meeting, Victor stunned everyone by revealing that he had managed to revive half of a human body using his newly built machine. Instead of being amazed, the entire room recoiled in terror. To them, Victor wasn't a genius. He was someone who dared to challenge the natural order, someone playing God by dragging the dead back into the world of the living. The businessmen began shouting at him, calling him insane, warning him that what he was doing was not only dangerous but immoral. But Victor didn't slow down. He didn't apologize. Instead, he picked up a small ball and tossed it toward the half-formed humanoid creature. In a moment that made everyone freeze in horror, the creature lifted its arm, caught the ball perfectly, and even managed to speak a few words. The entire room erupted in panic. Some backed away, others shouted for security, and all of them ordered Victor to leave immediately, fearing what he might create next. After the disastrous demonstration, it became painfully clear that no one wanted to fund Victor's research. Investors, scientists, and businessmen. All of them turned their backs on him, too afraid of what his discovery might mean for the world. So Victor walked away in silence, leaving behind the half-formed creature he had created. Heartbroken and alone, Victor stepped out into the cold night, believing his dream had ended. But just when he thought everything was lost, he received a phone call from a wealthy businessman. This man wasn't like the others. He owned massive industries, controlled huge amounts of money, and yet, despite all his wealth, his life was slipping away. He had been suffering from a brutal, incurable illness for years, quietly searching for any miracle, any science that might extend his remaining time. And now, after witnessing Victor's experiment, he felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. The businessman told Victor, "I'll give you whatever you need. Funding, equipment, resources from anywhere in the world. Build your own laboratory. Finish your work. And when the time comes, you will save my life." For Victor, it was like a lifeline appearing out of thin air. He was overwhelmed with joy, a chance to finish the work he believed would change the world. He immediately rushed to his brother William's home to share the incredible news. William celebrated his success with genuine pride, happy to see Victor finally receiving recognition. Victor also met Elizabeth, William's wife, who gently reminded him that even the greatest scientists must know their limits. She warned him softly, "There is a very thin line between science and God. Use science to help people, but never begin to think that you are God." Those words stayed with him, but Victor's ambition was already too strong. He traveled to a remote, isolated location, far from towns or curious eyes, a place where nobody would discover what he was building. There, he slowly transformed an old mansion into his personal research fortress, his very own castle of science. He ordered 2 massive silver antennas, taller than anything he had ever worked with. Victor understood that reviving a full human being would require an unimaginable amount of energy, far more than any machine on Earth could produce at the time. So he made a bold decision. He would use lightning itself. Those silver antennas were designed to capture the raw, untamed power of a lightning strike and channel it directly into his creation. If everything went right, the energy would surge through the lifeless body he built and bring a human being back to life. William and his wife Elizabeth, who was also the niece of a powerful and influential businessman, continued to stand firmly by Victor's side. They believed in his vision, believed in his intelligence, and helped him in every way they could as he worked day and night to complete his secret laboratory. Once the lab was finally ready, Victor plunged into a series of intense experiments, all aimed at creating a complete human life form from scratch. No matter how many times he tried, no matter how much effort he poured into the process, he failed again and again. Frustrated, exhausted, and almost ready to give up, he listened when Elizabeth gently approached him and said, "Not like this. You're thinking too far. Start from the beginning. Build it like yourself, piece by piece." Those simple words suddenly made everything click for him. Victor restarted his entire project with a new mindset. He modeled the humanoid after his own human movements, studying the way arms swing, how legs bend, how muscles tighten, how joints rotate. To mimic this in his creation, he connected the bones and muscles with carefully placed wires, allowing the creature to raise its arms, bend its legs, and even walk like a real person. Slowly, wires spread through the entire body, a nervous system made of metal instead of nerves. But the skeleton wasn't enough. To make the body truly human, Victor needed organs. Real organs. And at that time, a brutal war was raging across the land. Amid the chaos of the battlefield, countless bodies lay abandoned. Victor began collecting those corpses, an act both horrifying and heartbreaking, and used their organs one by one to assemble his humanoid. He cut open each dead body, searching for functional parts. He took the eyes from one soldier, the nose from another, and the heart from someone else entirely. Piece by piece, organ by organ, he constructed the body like a macabre jigsaw puzzle. By the time he was done, the process had become so disturbing and grotesque that even Victor seemed shaken by what he had created. But in the end, after years of obsession, he finally completed the body. He decided to give it a name. He called it Frankenstein. Victor then connected its heart to a massive electrical power machine, one specifically designed to jolt the body awake when the time was right. Now all he needed was a thunderstorm strong enough to send lightning crashing into the silver antennas mounted on top of the mansion. One bolt of lightning, and his creation would awaken. And finally, that day came. Dark clouds gathered over the sky. Thunder rumbled in the distance. And Victor knew that tonight could be the night his dream became reality. On that exact same evening, the wealthy businessman who had sponsored the entire experiment arrived unexpectedly, ready to witness the moment that might one day save his own life. Victor turned to the wealthy businessman and said, almost proudly, "Look, today the experiment is finally complete. Now tell me, what exactly do you want from me?" The man didn't hesitate for even a second. He replied, "What more could I possibly want? When my time comes, I want you to bring me back to life, just like you plan to do with this body. And if you fail, if you can't revive me, then transfer my heart and my mind into this new body." Hearing this, Victor's expression changed instantly. He stepped back and said firmly, "No, I won't alter my creation any further. This body is complete. I won't tamper with it again." But the businessman grew furious. His calm demeanor shattered, and he lunged toward Victor in rage. A violent struggle broke out between them, shouting, pushing, things crashing to the ground. In the chaos of the fight, the businessman slipped, fell hard onto a sharp metal edge, and died instantly. At that exact same moment, lightning finally struck the two massive silver towers Victor had built on the roof, sending a powerful surge of electricity through the lab. But even with all that energy, Victor quickly realized his worst fear. The experiment hadn't worked. The humanoid, his creation named Frankenstein, didn't move an inch. It remained lifeless on the table. Crushed by failure, Victor collapsed emotionally. Years of relentless work, sleepless nights, sacrifices, it all felt wasted. Eventually, drained and heartbroken, he fell asleep on the cold floor of his lab. But when he woke up the next morning, something unbelievable happened. Standing right in front of him, shaking, towering, and wrapped entirely in bandages, was Frankenstein. The creature was alive, could walk. Victor's breath caught in his throat. The creature's movements were unnatural, jerky, almost mechanical, like something struggling to understand how a body should work. Its stitched-together form, built from pieces of many different humans, made it look horrifying, like a nightmare stitched into reality. In that moment, Victor realized he was afraid of the very thing he had created. Panicking, Victor locked the towering creature inside a hidden room. Once he calmed down, he examined Frankenstein more closely and realized something important. The creature's brain functioned like that of a newborn child. It didn't understand right or wrong. It didn't understand emotions. It didn't even understand who it was. So Victor began teaching it step by step. He started with speech, naming the creature after himself. Victor pointed to his own chest and said slowly, "I am Victor." The creature listened, mirrored him, and responded in a deep, unsettling voice, "I am Victor." Day after day, Victor continued teaching him how to walk properly, how to speak, how to behave like a human. But in the process, he forgot a crucial truth. Frankenstein might look like an adult, but mentally, he was still just a child. And a child that powerful must be treated with extreme care. A few days later, William arrived to visit Victor, bringing his wife Elizabeth along with him. The moment Victor saw them walk through the door, his heart tightened in fear, because he knew the terrible truth. He was responsible for Elizabeth's uncle's death. He wasn't ready to face her, and he definitely wasn't ready to explain what had happened. Before Victor could even greet her, Elizabeth suddenly heard strange noises echoing from the basement. Curious and concerned, she followed the sound down the stairs, and there she came face to face with Frankenstein. The creature's massive figure stunned her at first, but once the shock faded, she actually smiled. She was amazed by Victor's achievement. Looking up at the towering humanoid, she said softly, "You're so big." Frankenstein, curious and innocent like a child, asked for her name. Elizabeth introduced herself, and almost instantly, she began talking to him gently, teaching him simple things. And somehow, Frankenstein understood her. He responded to her in ways he never did with Victor. When Victor saw that Frankenstein was learning from Elizabeth, but not from him, something inside him twisted. Jealousy, frustration, anger. He had spent months teaching the creature, yet it was Elizabeth's calm, childlike approach that Frankenstein connected with. Boiling with insecurity, Victor snapped. He grabbed William by the arm and whispered urgently, "Take Elizabeth away, right now." He told him the bitter truth. The creature he created was extremely dangerous, and worse, Victor claimed it was the same creature responsible for killing Elizabeth's uncle. To prove it, he dragged William to the hidden room and revealed the businessman's dead body. Then Victor said in a trembling voice, "If you care about your life and your wife's, leave today. I'll destroy this thing myself." Terrified but trusting his brother, William hurried Elizabeth out of the mansion. As soon as they left, Victor made the most extreme decision of his life. He drenched the entire palace in gasoline, every room, every hallway, every stair. Then he struck a match. The explosion was massive, so powerful that it blasted Victor out of a window. The force tore his leg nearly completely off, leaving it attached only by a few strands of flesh and veins. William, horrified at the sight, rushed to his brother and carried him and Elizabeth away from the burning ruins, taking them back to the city for help. And then the story cuts back to the present. In the present timeline, we see that Frankenstein had resurfaced from the freezing ocean completely unharmed. Burning with rage and vengeance, he managed to sneak onto the ship and began setting sections of it on fire. The captain confronted him bravely and asked, Is Victor's story true? Did your father tell us everything? Are you truly dangerous? Do you really kill humans? Frankenstein paused, and then replied in a deep, sorrowful voice. No, that's only half the truth. I have never killed a human. He continued, but I won't deny that I'm angry. I want revenge for what Victor did to me. He left me in that burning palace. I barely escaped. I crawled through the basement tunnels, and they led me into the woods. I wandered those forests for years. Then, with pain in his voice, he added, Victor never once understood that I was a child. He never stopped to think. How would I survive in a world I didn't understand? How would I manage mentally and emotionally when I didn't even know who I was? Frankenstein continued his story, his voice heavy with sadness. He explained that even animals in the forest would flee the moment they saw him. Birds stopped singing, wolves ran in fear, and even harmless creatures hid at the sight of his massive, stitched-together form. He had never felt so utterly alone in his life. One day, a group of hunters surrounded him so quickly that he had no chance to escape. They fired at him repeatedly, and the pain was unbearable. Desperate to save himself, he stumbled into a small wooden house and collapsed inside. Hours later, when he regained consciousness, something incredible had happened. Every single wound on his body had healed completely. His skin had sealed, the bleeding had stopped, and he looked almost untouched. Frankenstein recalled that moment with pure amazement. He said softly, I looked around that house again, and I saw a family living there, a family full of love, kindness, and warmth. Watching them, he realized something he had never felt before. He wanted a family too. He wanted people who would talk to him, understand him, care about him. From the shadows, he watched an old man teaching his little granddaughter how to read. Frankenstein listened quietly, absorbing every word. Through their lessons, he learned their language, observed their behavior, and slowly understood how humans live. The more he watched them, the stronger his desire grew to become a part of their world. He wanted to help them, to belong to them, to live the life they were living. So he began assisting them secretly. When the family left home, he would sneak in, clean the place, and fix whatever was broken. He brought them chopped firewood, stacking bundles neatly outside the door. The family was confused about the mysterious gifts. They wondered who was helping them with such kindness. Eventually, the grandfather simply smiled and said, Maybe God is watching over us. Time passed, and the family finally decided to leave their old home and move to the city. But the grandfather, who was blind and had grown too weak to travel, chose to stay behind. What no one knew was that the grandfather had been aware of Frankenstein all along. Even though he couldn't see, his ears recognized every sound. The creature's heavy footsteps, his careful breathing, the quiet movements inside the house. And in his heart, he never saw Frankenstein as a monster. To him, Frankenstein was simply another human, a lonely soul longing for connection. After the family left, Frankenstein finally stepped out of hiding and stood before the old man. Instead of fear, the man reached out his hand and welcomed him like a member of his own family. Over time, the grandfather taught him everything he knew: how to read, how to speak properly, how to understand emotions, and how to live with dignity. For the first time in his life, Frankenstein felt human. One day, after spending months learning everything he could, Frankenstein was sitting with Grandpa, talking like they always did. Out of nowhere, Grandpa gently asked him, Son, where did you come from originally? The question hit Frankenstein like a shockwave because he had never truly thought about his origin. Seeing his confusion, Grandpa spoke softly, Try to remember, what's the last place you recall being in? Frankenstein slowly answered, Yes, there is a place I remember. I think I can go back there. Encouraging him, Grandpa said, Then you should return. Maybe that place will reveal who you really are. Taking his advice to heart, Frankenstein heads back to the very laboratory where Victor first created him. Once he enters the ruined lab, he discovers Victor's old journals and records, and he is stunned to realize that he wasn't born like every other living being. He had actually been manufactured piece by piece. He even finds Victor's home address. Filled with hope, he decides that he must meet Victor and beg him to create another creature, someone like him, so he wouldn't have to walk through the world completely alone. Excited to share this discovery with the one person he considered family, he rushes back to tell Grandpa the truth about his existence. But as soon as he arrives, his heart crashes. He finds Grandpa brutally mauled by wolves, barely hanging on to life. Terrified and heartbroken, Frankenstein kneels beside him and cries, You can't die. You're the only friend I have in this entire world. While he's pleading with him, Grandpa's sons suddenly walk in, and without understanding anything, they assume Frankenstein is the monster who attacked their father. Without hesitation, they shoot him from behind. Wounded and confused, Frankenstein tries to escape, but the men keep firing until he collapses on the ground. Believing him to be dead, they leave him there. Hours later, he regains consciousness, but Grandpa is nowhere to be found. His sons had already carried him away. Now Frankenstein finally understands what he must do. He has Victor's address, and only Victor can give him the companion he desperately needs. During his journey, he unexpectedly crosses paths with Victor, who is out celebrating with his younger brother William. Seeing Victor enjoy a carefree, luxurious life while he himself suffered endlessly ignites a fire of rage inside Frankenstein. In a burst of fury, he lunges toward Victor and shouts, "You destroyed my life. I swear I'll kill you." Instead of fear, Victor coldly replies, "Do it. I've regretted creating a disgusting creature like you from the very day I saved you." Frankenstein, hurt but firm, responds, "I'm not a monster." But Victor refuses to listen. With hatred in his eyes, Victor raises his gun, ready to shoot him. Suddenly, Elizabeth steps between Victor and the creature, and she ends up taking the bullet meant for Frankenstein. In that one moment, Frankenstein's world collapses all over again. Grandpa and Elizabeth were the only two human beings who ever treated him with kindness, and now both of them were gone. Heartbroken, he gently lifts Elizabeth in his arms and quietly carries her away from the chaos of the party. Meanwhile, William returns home in complete shock from losing his wife. He turns to Victor and says with bitter pain, "You've destroyed everything." Victor keeps apologizing, but William, shattered and furious, throws him out of his house. Now Victor is burning with hatred. In his mind, Frankenstein is the reason his brother is suffering. Driven by rage, Victor hunts him down again, and when he finally catches up to him, he attacks in a savage fury and even cuts off Frankenstein's nose. Victor screams, "I swear I'll get my revenge." Frankenstein, wounded but calm, replies, "If revenge is what you want, then come find me." And with those words, he disappears into the darkness. Years pass. Over the next several years, Victor chases him across mountains, forests, and frozen wastelands. The journey destroys his health and nearly costs him his life, but he never stops. One day, out of nowhere, Frankenstein appears before Victor and says, "Whatever weapon you have meant to kill me, give it to me. I'll use it on myself. And if I survive, then I promise, I'll finish you." Victor hands him a bundle of dynamite. Frankenstein detonates it and his entire body is blown to pieces. But like every time before, he eventually regenerates and rises again. From that moment, he begins hunting Victor, determined to fulfill the deadly promise he made. When Frankenstein finally corners Victor and begins tormenting him, Victor desperately calls out to the captain and his men for help. This brings us back to the opening scene of the movie. Now, in the present, Frankenstein is telling this whole story to both the captain and Victor together. Looking straight at Victor, he says, "I never wanted your death. I didn't want anything from you, not revenge, not blood. All I ever wanted in the beginning was to find you, to ask you to make someone like me, someone I could love, someone I could live my life with." Hearing this truth, Victor's eyes fill with tears. He whispers, "I failed you. I never trusted the very life I created." His health is failing fast, and he knows his end is near. With his final breaths, he says, "You must live in my place, and you have to forgive me." And Frankenstein, after all the pain, forgives him. The entire crew stands in silence, some of them crying at the tragedy they've just witnessed. In the final moments, Frankenstein climbs off the ship and pushes the massive iceberg aside, freeing the vessel from the frozen trap. The crew sails away, waving their hands in gratitude toward the creature who saved them. Frankenstein watches them drift into the distance, feeling the familiar sting of loneliness once again as humans leave him behind. But this time, he decides that he will continue living alone, but on his own terms. And that is where the film ends, revealing the harsh yet powerful destiny that Frankenstein must carry forever. If you enjoyed this explanation, make sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support truly gives meaning to all the hard work that goes into these videos, and it motivates me to keep bringing you even better science fiction and survival movie stories. Thank you so much for giving me your valuable time. Until next time, I'll see you very soon in the next video.